What's up, guys? The in here, and we are going to do a video on the Friday the 13th for NES that came out in 1989 versus the new Friday the 13th that came out here in 2017. Now that is a huge gap between games, honestly. Like, there's been 3 ever made. There's one that was made before the 1989 one, but it was absolutely terrible, so I hate bringing it up. So I like to only think about the 1989 one that came out first, but there's been 3. But we're only going to do the 89 and the 17 one. So we're going to have some pros and cons, starting off with the new version. So, of course, the new version looks better. Of course, it's 2017, and it's hard to really make fun of the NES one for that because it was different times. I actually think the NES one was probably more revolutionary than this new one, because this new one, in today's standards, isn't the most prettiest game in the world. It looks good, but in a PS4 standards, it's not that great. Another pro is you can play as Jason, and not just one Jason, but many Jasons. And that's always cool, and the same goes for the counselors. You can play as many counselors, including a lot of the pretty girls, which is amazing. And there's a lot of unlocks you can do, which is really kind of cool. And you can also kill Jason, which I think is really cool. Something I haven't done yet in the game, but you can do. Now, the cons for this game is it's always online, meaning at some point, if they don't add the story mode that was promised, which I don't think they honestly will, they might, we'll see. But if they don't, this game will die out, and if it's always online, eventually the servers will go down, and it would just be something no one can play anymore. The other thing they said they're going to add, they might and might not, we'll have to wait and see, is there is no story mode. There is no story to it. It is directly 3 maps, always online, 1 mode, and that gets boring. I've been playing this game for about a month now, and I still play it. It's still fun, but I am essentially bored of it, and I am just waiting and waiting for something new to come. Whether it's a new map, the story mode, just something would be awesome. The last 2 things on my cons list is that it really does take forever to get in a game. There's sometimes you can instantly get into one, and sometimes you'll sit at the lobby, you'll just sit there, and then it'll throw you in the lobby as a host, and you'll just sit there and nothing will show up. And then you'll finally get in a game, you finally possibly get to play as Jason, and the first person you kill will quit, and he'll end up being the host, and if the host quit, it kicks everyone out of the game. This is such a huge problem, to the point where I almost quit playing this game. If it wasn't a Friday the 13th game and I didn't love this series so much, I would have quit because of the bad host migration that doesn't exist. So let's get into the old school, the Friday the 13th for NES, the 1989 version. So let's go over some pros. It has a story. It does. It really does have a story, and it's kind of like a 3-part story, and I really liked the idea. It could have been a thicker story, but for back in the day, having the story that it did was pretty awesome. And it also has a lot of Easter eggs, and it has homages to, like, Jason's mom, who you have to fight, different weapons you can get. It has to go into, like, the forest area, and you get to, like, find a hidden place where you can, like, unlock more stuff, and it's just, there's a lot of little hidden stuff like that, which is awesome. And as I said before, you get to fight Jason's mom. That's something I really think would be cool to have if they actually do put out DLC in the new version, where you can actually fight Jason's mom. You can actually relive scenes from all of the movies, which is amazing. And I also think the map was better. I think the map on the NES version was better than all 3 of the maps combined. Like, I love the fact, as I mentioned before, you can go in the forest and find hidden areas. You can go into caves. You can go into Crystal Lake area. There's a big circle around the map that had tons of places you can go into, like the houses, tons of weapons you can unlock. And I honestly think it was really an amazing map that I wish they would somehow bring to the new version. The cons for the old version was zombies. For some reason, the developers thought, hey, we should put zombies in the game that spawn every second of the game that you have to avoid no matter where you are. And this was so stupid. Zombies do not exist in the Friday the 13th series unless you're talking about Jason himself or the NES game. Now, I know there's a lot of speculations. Jason eventually does turn into a zombie and all this stuff. I mean, he's a walking dead. He gets resurrected from a grave at one of the parts, for God's sake. But having zombies just randomly pop up and hurt you every few seconds, That's a terrible, terrible con. I'll also say the game was ugly, but again, it was the end of the 80s. It was on NES. I can't harp it for it, just like I can't make fun of the new one looking better, because again, graphics aren't everything, and it was a totally different time for games back then. Another con for the old school Jason was that it was hard as fuck. Like, seriously, it was so ridiculously hard. The only way I could ever win was to put on like a Game Genie with cheat codes. And I could probably get past the first stage, but there was 3 stages you killing Jason. And that comes to my last con. Worst ending ever. At the end, it's just like, did you kill Jason? You'll never know. And then just goes back to the main menu. One of the worst endings ever, but I still think it was pretty awesome. Like, the first chapter is usually the longest, and then you get through the second one, and by the time you're at the third chapter, you usually have everything unlocked, usually taking Jason down, and it really did have a cool system where you had to go save the counselors or you're going to lose everybody. If you didn't go save someone, you're going to lose a player, you're going to lose your people, and it really, if you lost everyone, it's basically game over. So I guess after going over the new pros and cons, going over the old pros and cons, we come to a verdict, and I guess what it really comes down to, which one will stand the aches of time. And what I mean by that is, the one that came out in 89 is seriously what, 28 years old at this point? And you can still play it to this day. Now don't get me wrong, you're going to need a ROM, you're going to need NES, but if you really wanted to, you could download one instantly, you can play it on your phone, you could play it right now. And you can play the new one that just came out, but in 30 years will you be able to play it? Will it even exist? Will we have a new Friday the 13th then? Will the servers be up where you can play it? Will it have single player mode? All these questions are unanswered, because at the moment, where it stands now, within 5 years you won't be able to play this game anymore, because the servers will all be dead and you will not be able to play this. So I mean, it really does beg the question, who's going to stand the aches of time? And at the moment, I think the old school NES wins. Now honestly, I'll tell you how the new one can beat it. If the new one comes out with a mode that you can play as bots, and you can go run around as Jason or the camper as like a bot chases you down. You can have hard, easy, and you can play in different modes. And you can have a story mode that you can play single player, and you can like relive moments from the game and just play it over and over to where the game will actually last and not have to be always online. And that's the major thing. If you make it where it's not always online and where the servers go down, you can just never play it anymore. And that's something that really needs to be fixed. I mean, I can't stress how many times I'm just like, I don't want to play online, but I have to. I don't want to play with other people and wait in a lobby, but I have to. I want to play as Jason, but it's random, and you have 8 people. It's like 1 out of 8. That's your chance of playing as Jason, and it's very, very rare. So, my verdict, the new Friday the 13th versus the old NES Classic, the Classic wins. And don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the new one, and I think the new one is better. The old one's hard as hell, but the old one is such a classic. It will outlive this new one in a lot of other games, and it's just so where everything began. And I think they did a really good job on it, despite it being so hard. But what NES game back in the day wasn't hard? Thanks for listening to me. Let me know if I missed anything that you might think is a pro or con in any of these games. Let me know your opinion in the comments below, and we'll be covering a lot more of the new Friday the 13th here on Duck Opinion. We're the only channel where ducks can fly, so do me a favor, friends, like and subscribe. Talk to you later. Peace.